This is things I wish I could say in Sunday school. I want to share some thoughts and ideas that are different than what we usually hear. My goal is to be really honest rather than inherently faith-promoting. I hope these ideas may spark some interesting discussions with your friends, families, or classes. Please enjoy. This is a lesson for May 18th through 24th, Joshua chapters 1 through 8, and chapters 23 and 24. Today's topics are puzzle pieces, Rahab and the fall of Jericho, and choose you this day. Before I get into Joshua, the manual injected a section about the historical books of the Old Testament. Basically, the Old Testament is divided up into 4 sections. We just finished the books of Moses. Joshua begins the historical section. Then Psalms begins the poetry section, and the prophets start with Isaiah until the end of the Old Testament. Anyway, in the introduction to the historical books, the manual used an analogy I have to comment on. It's about reading stuff in the Old Testament that doesn't make sense. I'm quoting from the manual here. In some cases, the passage may not seem to fit well with any of these. Sometimes the passage may be like a puzzle piece that doesn't look like it has a place among the pieces you've already assembled. Trying to force the piece to fit isn't the best approach, but neither is giving up on the entire puzzle. Instead, you may need to set the piece aside for a time. As you learn more and put together more of the puzzle, you may be able to better see how the pieces fit together. There was probably a time in my life when I would have liked this analogy, but now I think it's judgmental. The implication is that every part of the scriptures will fit into some perfect whole godly picture. That's just not real. And that just because there's stuff in there that feels wrong to you, it's your fault because you don't understand yet. Not that it's actually wrong. It gives active members ammo to judge anyone who chooses to be anything other than fully active in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The stuff in the scriptures that we can't reconcile is not like a puzzle piece that we don't have the neighboring pieces for yet. It's like a puzzle piece for a different puzzle entirely, one that's been discontinued and thrown away. Also, it's entirely reasonable to be done and put away or throw away a puzzle if it's not making you happy anymore. Who cares if you didn't finish it? That's just the sunk cost fallacy. Anyway, I just couldn't help but comment on this analogy in the manual. I want to highlight the story of Rahab. The scriptures say Rahab is a harlot. I think it's safe to assume that means she was a prostitute or a madam, a woman who runs a brothel. She hides 2 of Joshua's spies and lies to the Jericho authorities to protect them. Then when the Israelites overthrow Jericho, her household is spared. There are a few things I want to point out in this story. First, Rahab is a sex worker, and everyone in the story treats her with respect. No one chooses sex work if they have better options for their life. It's someone trying to make the best out of really unfortunate situations. But here, they all respected her. The spies went to her for help. The Jericho authorities believed her story about the spies. All her household listened to her and trusted her to save them when Jericho was overthrown. And later, she is integrated in with the Israelites. They have a lot of rules about marrying foreigners, but those rules are ignored for her. It's so refreshing to read a story in the scriptures where a woman is treated with respect. Here, she is both a sex worker and a foreigner, and yet everyone treats her with respect. It's really refreshing to read. The second thing I want to highlight is that David is a descendant of Rahab, and Christ is of the lineage of David. I personally think lineages are pretty stupid, but it's worth noting that this awesome woman is an ancestor of Jesus, and she was a sex worker and a non-Israelite. I point this out as an example that purity of lineage is a farce. The last point I want to draw attention to in the story of Rahab is that she's looked at as kind of a hero because Israel defeated Jericho. But if Jericho had won, she would have been a traitor and likely executed. Her actions, when viewed by Israel, were heroic. But when viewed by Jericho, it's abject betrayal. Perspective matters a lot. Rahab made a choice. She picked a side and stuck by it. Which brings us to our next topic. This is Joshua leaving some last words of wisdom before he dies. I'll read Joshua 24:15. This was a scripture mastery verse back in the 90s, and it's still a doctrinal mastery verse for seminary students in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve. whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Here, Joshua is specifically telling his people that they have to choose which god or gods to follow. That framing is interesting. Like so much of the Old Testament, this is othering everyone that isn't an Israelite, basically framing it as a them versus us issue, which is super common propaganda all the time, even now. But when we look at this verse, most of the time we make it broader, choosing to follow God or choosing who you're going to be. Those are much more interesting questions. Frankly, I don't love the framing as choosing to follow God either, because people twist that idea of God or God's will into whatever form allows them to do what they want or to attain what they want in life. I think choosing what kind of person you're going to be is the best idea we can take from this verse, because then it really comes down to your character. Are you truly honest? Are you kind to everyone? I really don't think it's about serving God necessarily, though there are scriptures that equate serving people to serving God. Our heavenly parents don't need our service. They hope we will choose to be good and kind to all of their other children. And the unfortunate truth is that many people have twisted the idea of God so that they can justify being cruel to others. So many churches propagate cruelty to gay people, the mistreatment of women and children, racism, the list goes on. The scriptures are full of it too. The churches narrow down on something that they can rile up the masses about, like abortion or trans people. It connects with a mean streak in most people. The churches create a framework where it's okay to be cruel because of these issues. Along with that targeted cruelty comes a false sense of superiority. It gives major dopamine hits. And they have convinced themselves that their cruelty is righteousness, that God endorses the cruelty. It's completely false. On top of that, then these self-righteous churchgoers are also convinced that they are discriminated against as people of faith, which is not true. Honestly, I do judge them because I can see their cruelty and their hypocrisy, but they are in no way discriminated against. That's just bully victim mentality. I'll wrap up my rant going back to the question. Choose you this day. What are you going to choose for your life? Love of all other people or selective cruelty for dopamine hits of superiority? It is really our choice. It's sometimes difficult to choose to be consistently kind to all, especially when our systems and institutions have selective cruelty baked in. It can be hard to see it when we're in it. It's also hard to really choose loving kindness when you're enmeshed in an institution that peddles faux kindness with some underlying cruelty. And that's what you're used to, and that's what feels normal. If you choose true kindness to all, others will look at you like you've lost the plot, when the reality is that you're seeing their choices and can no longer feel good about supporting them. It takes courage, but it's also the only real path to integrity. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Please share with family and friends. Until next time.